Sacred sites are powerful areas on our planet that function like an airport and like a power plant. You will actually see a lot of military bases, government institutions, churches, temples, synagogues built on these sacred sites because they help to amplify the energy, so your power and your influence will be intensified at these places. So in this video, we're going to explore what sacred sites are, how to ask for permission to enter these sacred sites, and how to actually work with the energy within these sacred lands. And so if you're new here, hi, my name is SolTara, and this channel focuses on working with spiritual alchemy. If that resonates with you, I invite you to subscribe. And sacred sites and portals and vortexes, we're going to use these terms interchangeably in this video. So a portal and a vortex, in my understanding, is literally the same thing. They're just different words to describe the same concept. But a portal or a vortex area is basically where there is a heightened concentration of energy. So this is electromagnetic energy that would be concentrated in one specific place. For example, if you look at Stonehenge, scientists actually went there, and using their instruments, they were able to measure, and the energy, the magnetic energy from Stonehenge, it actually radiates out multiple feet outside of the stone circle. And so these sacred sites are emitting energy, and that's why they work as a power plant as well. So at the basic understanding, a sacred site is where a bunch of energy lines cross on our planet. So if you were to go to a acupuncture clinic, they would stick needles in your meridian lines. So we have the main chakras. Mother Earth also has chakras. They also function as their own sacred sites. And Mother Earth also has all of these energy currents running through her body, just like we do. And when multiple of these lines will cross, that will create a portal or a vortex. Again, these are interchangeable words, but let's just say there are 4 lines crossing. That will create a heightened amount of concentrated energy, which will create a sacred site. So a sacred site, a portal, a vortex, will have 2 different functions. It will function as an airport and as a power plant. So what do I mean by airport? An airport, just like in our modern day lives, we go there when we're going to travel to another city, another country. They are transit areas, and it works the same way within sacred sites. If you go to a sacred site, you will notice that there's a lot of beings there. There's a lot of elementals there that you can connect with. Sometimes different energy centers in different sacred sites will actually have different types of spirits. So for example, if you go to Joshua Tree, there's a lot of galactic energy there. If you were to go to the Valley of Fire in Las Vegas, there is a lot of ancient beings living there that trace back to Mu, Lemuria. And so these energy centers, there is a thinning of the veil within these places, and that's why they function as airports, because different beings can come in and out of the different dimensions much easier this way. And that's why you'll notice actually a lot of different spirits within these sacred sites and portals and vortexes, because it's very easy to travel within the different planes. And the other function that sacred sites have is that they function like a power plant. So they are concentrations of energy, specifically magnetic energy, and that allows them to radiate energy out. And that's why you will see a lot of military bases, government institutions are built on these energy centers that are crossing these portals. And a clear example of this is Washington, D.C. If you go to Washington, D.C., you'll see the obelisk in the middle of the Washington Monument, which honestly, within and of itself, is already sacred geometry, because the obelisk is from ancient Egypt, and it's a sacred geometry that pulls in energy and helps to anchor it into that specific place. And today you will see an obelisk in every capital all over the world. So governments are already working with this type of technology, and it's important for us to work with this in a very ethical and in a way with a lot of integrity for the highest and greatest good of all. And That's why military bases are built there, right? Whatever energy is built there or whatever intentions are held within these places, they're amplified. And so going back to this idea of Washington, D.C. being built on these portals, if you look at the Washington Monument, the obelisk, it is directly aligned with the White House. And again, all of this is done intentionally, and that's why it's so important for us to go connect with these portals within our earth. And these portals and sacred sites hold so much wisdom for us to work with. There's actually this researcher, Freddie Silva, in his research discovered that modern day religious sites, including churches, synagogues, mosques, temples, they were all built on previous indigenous sites. So the indigenous people of our world, all over the world, they were so connected to the land, they could talk to the land, and they had this really deep relationship that they knew where these portals were, where these sacred sites were, and that's why they would build medicine wheels, that's why they would build specific altars for their ancestors and all of these different ways. And fast forwarding to today, a lot of modern religions actually build their churches, temples, and institutions on top of these ancient indigenous sites because they want to influence their power. And so in this video, we're going to explore how we can actually work with this power. But first, before working with the sacred land, it's super important for you to get an understanding of how can you recognize what is a sacred site. A clear indication is going to a place in nature where the rocks or the trees grow in really funky ways, and I'll put up some pictures right here to show you. So these are the Joshua trees, they work in really funky ways, and these are some of the rocks in the Valley of Fire, and these rocks are actually built naturally from limestone, sandstone, and these are naturally occurring crystals within the rocks that allow them to hold energy, and that's how they can become these power plants. Actually, the ancient Egyptian pyramids were built from limestone because this material helps to be a conductor of electricity and energy, and that's how it honestly works like a power grid. That's the best way to describe it. And one of the ways that you can recognize a sacred site is by going on hikes. Go explore the nature parks near you and try to observe where are these roots, where are these trees with funky patterns, rocks with strange formations growing, because that will show you a clear indication of a portal. Because of the unique energy that flows through this area, that's why the rocks, the biology within these places is growing in these ways, because it's representative of that unique frequency that's flowing through that land. Here are some cool pictures of before and after excavation of sacred sites. And what's so fascinating is that we went to Kauai last year, and me and my wife, we saw this hill. It was on private property. Like, it looked completely like random, and it looked just like a pyramid. And so we went there. We like had to hop a fence, but everything, obviously we did it responsibly and thoughtfully. And when we went to this hill, we started to meditate, and then when we manifested, it manifested instantly. And so just be on the lookout for strange shapes that you may see. Also know that the rocks and the trees are very much alive, and we'll talk about that later in this video. The other way that you can identify sacred sites is obviously going to where there are monuments there, right? So the Egyptian pyramids, medicine wheels. If you were to go to certain temples and sacred sites like Stonehenge are really popular ones, but also even Mount Shasta. Mount Shasta is such a popular sacred site now, and it is because it's one of the chakras of Mother Earth. So these are some indications to help you to identify sacred sites. So before you start to work with these sacred sites, you have to ask for permission. And one of the ways to do that is whenever you go to any new place, honestly, I do this even when it's not like a sacred site. Whenever I go to a new place, I always give gratitude to the guardians and the spirits of that land. Like if I were to travel to another city, the first thing I do is I give gratitude to the land and to the spirits there, and I honor them, and I greet the guardians of that land, because all land everywhere in the world has guardians. and it's important for us to honor them and be respectful so that we have a positive experience in that place. One of the ways that you can do this is you can give gratitude, thank them for allowing you to enter this place, send them love. These are just some very simple things that you can do. It's not going to take a long time, but the most important thing is about doing this with intention and doing it from the purity of your heart. Something else that you can do is you can bring offerings. One of the offerings that my wife taught me, she's from Myanmar and they practice Theravada Buddhism there, and her grandma taught her this, is that you actually share your good deeds with the beings there. So for example, let's say like you accumulated a lot of good karma, you got good brownie points, then you would share those good deeds with the guardians and the spirits of that land. That's a very easy offering that you can do. What I like to do is I like to bring an offering to the land as well. You can do it as a song, you can bring crystals, seeds, you can bring anything as long as it's from the heart. There's no right or wrong like indications of this, anything that's from the heart space to really give, without expecting anything in return. And the last thing I do before entering a sacred site is I always ask to be cleansed, so to purify my mind, my heart, and my energy field. That one's optional, see if it resonates with you. There are many different ways that you can work with sacred sites and the land within sacred sites. So one of the ways is by communicating. The rocks are alive, the trees are alive, and there's a lot of elementals, there's a lot of different spirits within sacred sites. So you can communicate, ask them for wisdom, and obviously throughout this whole process is give gratitude. Most people think it's a joke that you can actually talk to trees, but this is something that you can actually do. Trees are very much alive. Sometimes we forget that Mother Earth is literally living, and different trees will have different personalities. It's the same thing with rocks. Some rocks actually come from space and they can give you a lot of wisdom, and they're charged with so much energy to fuel you up with vitality. And this is actually something that I teach people to do. We go to sacred sites and you will learn how to connect with the rocks, how to connect with the trees, with the spirits there, so you can actually talk to them. And it's a conversation that you're having, that you're receiving wisdom. And if that's something that resonates with you, I invite you to join us. Currently, our trip is to the Grand Canyon, into the Valley of Fire in Las Vegas. Both of these are sacred sites to the indigenous people of North America. And within this trip, we're actually going to celebrate the equinox, because the equinox in and of itself is also its own portal because of the way that the sun and the earth are aligned when we switch seasons. And that trip is going to be from September 20th until the 22nd. So you can get more information about that in the description of this video. Also, if you're watching this at a later time, we might also be doing a separate trip. So just check out the description of this video to see what trip we're doing at this time that you're watching this video. So that's one of the ways that you can work with the land, to get wisdom, to communicate with the spirits there, for your spiritual growth and evolution. Another way is by healing yourself. So sometimes we have some physical issues, and when you go to these sites, because there's a heightened amount of electromagnetic energy, it can actually help to speed up your healing process within the cells of your body. So you can work with this for physical healing, emotional healing, spiritual healing. A wonderful way to work at sacred lands is actually to connect with your ancestors and to heal karma as well. And it depends. You have to use discernment for this one tip, but sometimes sacred sites will also need healing, because sometimes sacred sites were misused for service to self reasons. So for example, military sites, right? Or for example, if we think about colonialism and all the violence that happened with that within sacred sites. And sometimes that land will ask you to heal it, but you have to do that in a very humble way, where you are practicing discernment, because sometimes we as humans be like, we're gonna be the saviors and we're gonna save anything, but the land knows how to heal itself. But occasionally humans can come in and add more to that. Easy way to do this that you actually don't have to practice any discernment is just send love into the land, send love into the rocks, the trees, everything that's around, all the nature within that sacred place. And that's a really easy way for you to send life force into the land too, because what's so unique about humans is that we are this beautiful vehicle that unites the physical and the etheric. So we're this beautiful union of above and below. And we have this unique ability to channel life force energy into our earth, and that's something more of us need to be doing, sending this into the waters of the land, into the soils of the land, etc., etc. And one of my favorite things to do is to manifest at these sites. Manifestation happens instantly at these sacred sites because a lot of them tend to have natural forming crystals, but again, remember, they function like airports, and so the veil between the dimensions is super thin, so your manifestations will get beamed out really quickly, and you'll notice them manifest in a record amount of time. And so manifest for yourself, for your family, for your friends, for the collective when you're at these sites. Also, one of my favorite things to do is to receive wisdom. So oftentimes I will come with an intention to understand compassion more, to understand how these certain beings are connected to the collective, and like all of these things. So you can have an intention to receive wisdom. Something I like to do too is I like to bring my crystals, and I actually program my crystals at these sacred sites so they can sort of work like a USB stick holding information. And lastly, you can receive activations at these sacred sites. Oftentimes, it depends where you go. Like when I went to Egypt, you will be guided, to do certain things when you're there. Again, your past lives at these sacred sites will bring back memories too. So you'll be like, oh, why does this feel so familiar? It will feel trippy at times. And when I was in Egypt, I was like receiving like plasma energy into my body, and it was the strangest sensation. It's like jello, like liquid jello coming into my body. It was the weirdest thing. And you will receive activations at these sacred sites. So it's very important that, ideally try to avoid eating like heavy meals, processed foods and stuff, overly processed foods and stuff like that. Try to avoid alcohol and caffeine so that you can come in, with a pure cleansed body, so that you're able to receive the blessings from these sacred sites, because honestly, they're literally miracle areas within our planet. Also, again, just like the previous tip, you can also give activations to the land, because some sacred sites are sort of like shut down. Imagine when we go into a room and we turn the lights off and on. Sometimes we as humans have to come in with our life force, with our love, and send a beautiful life force into the earth to turn on some of these sacred sites that maybe there hasn't been a lot of ceremonies being done recently, right? Sort of like their energy levels are not that high. And so that's something that you can use your discernment to also do. And everything has to be done with humility, with purity, and with aligned intentions, because again, there are guardians at these sacred sites, and it's nothing to be afraid of. It's not like you should be fearing anything, but it's just doing everything from a space of alignment. And when you leave these sacred sites, always give gratitude. Give gratitude for the blessings, the wisdom that you receive. And I usually don't like to take like rocks with me from these places, only when I like ask for permission. And sometimes the land will let you take certain things, but always ask for permission as well. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your likes. And let me know, what was your favorite sacred site that you visited in the comments. Much love.